Now that the dust has settled from that stunningly one-sided Super Bowl, we can turn our attention in full to the impending offseason. And buckle up, because this one looks like it could be a doozy. Sure, every year we see stars switch teams for money, legacy, or simply a fresh start, but 2025 is shaping up to be one of the wildest offseasons yet, especially with some of the names that are already circulating. So without further ado, how about we take a look around the NFL and call out the 10 biggest stars that'll have new homes when next season kicks off, and where they could end up. Aaron Rodgers, quarterback, New York Jets. Well, I mean, come on, this one kind of seems like a foregone conclusion at this point, so let's just get this one out the way. Rodgers himself has admitted that the Jets might not want him back, which, if you've been paying attention to their general attitude toward the aging star, shouldn't be a huge surprise. The strange thing is that he's been openly speaking about potentially mentoring New York's next QB while also playing the "if they still want me" game, which, spoiler alert, confirms that they probably don't. At this point, it seems clear that New York believes it needs a clean break. The Rodgers experiment was ambitious, but unfortunately doomed from the start with the Achilles injury and the calamities that ensued. Not to mention the full regime change that probably wants nothing to do with the controversial future Hall of Famer. Someone will talk themselves into him if he still wants to play, which I'm pretty sure he does. After all, going out with that Jet stank in his mouth would be a lot for someone with Rodgers' kind of ego to bear. A team like the Pittsburgh Steelers could absolutely convince themselves that Rodgers is the missing piece, just like New York did a couple of years ago. And sure, he's no longer in peak form, but hey, he's still an upgrade over Russell Wilson at this stage of his career. Plus, pairing with Justin Fields could be the mentorship opportunity that he's looking for. Kyle Pitts, tight end, Atlanta Falcons. Sometimes things just don't work out. No one wants to admit it, but at a certain point, both sides need to cut their losses. And that is exactly what we're seeing here with Kyle Pitts and the Atlanta Falcons. Frankly, it feels like we were there a year ago, but hey, whatever. Pitts was supposed to be the next great tight end. He was drafted 4th overall to revolutionize the position, putting up wide receiver numbers while blocking like a tackle. Instead, he's just been a glorified decoy in an offense that never quite figured out how to use him. And at this point, we cannot just blame the offense. He has had multiple quarterbacks and coaches, and well, nothing's stuck. The talent is still there, but his production? Ooh, brutal. He has been surpassed by younger, more dynamic tight ends like Brock Bowers and Sam Laporta. And at this point, his best bet is a fresh start somewhere else. Somewhere where he can get his head straight. Don't be shocked to see the team move on from him this offseason in one fashion or another. There are a couple of interesting landing places for the troubled tight end, though. One team that makes a ton of sense? The Washington Commanders. Pairing him with Jaden Daniels in a new-look offense could be exactly what Pitts needs to remind everyone why he was such a hyped prospect in the first place, especially if he gets the opportunity to play across from Zach Ertz, who can certainly aid in his development. Travis Etienne Jr., running back, Jacksonville Jaguars. Sometimes a guy just needs a fresh start. We've all seen it before, a talented player who gets stuck in a situation that just isn't working, and by the time the team realizes it, the relationship is already too far gone. Well, that's kind of where we're at with Travis Etienne and the Jacksonville Jaguars. It'll be interesting to see what the new coaching staff led by Liam Cohen wants to do, but the fact of the matter is that last season, Etienne's efficiency nosedived. Hate to pile on the guy, but 2024 was downright ugly. 3.7 yards per carry, only 2 total touchdowns, and just a guy who didn't look engaged all season. Now, it's not all on him. The Jaguars were a mess last year, but at this point, it's hard to see them keeping him around when Tank Bigsby is waiting in the wings. A fresh start just makes too much sense. And you know, the Chargers could be a very interesting landing spot, especially if they don't trust J.K. Dobbins to stay healthy. Jalen Ramsey, cornerback, Miami Dolphins. Jalen Ramsey is still good. Really good. But for some reason, their quarterback can't stay healthy. The team just hasn't been super relevant come playoff time since he joined the Dolphins. Honestly, his stint in Miami has been totally forgettable. Yeah, sure, he still puts up solid numbers and had a couple of moments, but the Dolphins fell apart down the stretch and it never really felt like Ramsey was a part of the story. At this point in his career, the aging cornerback can't really afford another wasted year toiling in mediocrity. Not if he wants to add another Lombardi trophy to his resume. resume, there will absolutely be a market for him, especially considering how well we've seen him play during the brief stretches where he and the other key members of the Dolphins are healthy and the Dolphins were actually relevant. 3 teams that make a ton of sense: Minnesota, Houston, or Baltimore. I mean, all 3 need cornerback help, and all 3 are right there as playoff contenders. His playmaking ability and fiery attitude could be just what the doctor ordered for one of those lucky teams to finally get over the hump and make a run at the Super Bowl. T. Higgins, WR, Cincinnati Bengals. If the Bengals don't find a way to maneuver their cap situation before the 2025 season, T. Higgins could become one of the most sought-after targets this offseason. While injuries have certainly caused Higgins to miss some time over the past 2 years, he has been a key part of the Bengals' offense when healthy. Sadly, for Cincinnati's diehard fan base, I think we all know how this story ends. The Bengals don't like paying players unless they absolutely have to. And with Joe Burrow locked in and Jamar Chase having just gotten his payday at the beginning of last year, Higgins is probably the odd man out. And that's a shame, because when he is on the field, Higgins is a true WR1, or at least damn near close. Yeah, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but man, he is big, he is physical, and he wins at the catch point better than almost anyone in the league. At this point, we all know the Bengals' approach to paying their star players, or really the lack thereof. Even if Joe Burrow offers to restructure, it really wouldn't be a huge surprise to see Cincy pretend it forgot its wallet at home when Higgins' representation calls. And for Cincy, the insult to injury would be if he landed with a team like the Ravens or Chargers, 2 AFC rivals, 1 in division, both of whom are in need of a talented wide receiver to help open up their offense downfield and that can dominate in contested catch situations. And well, newsflash, Higgins is exactly that kind of receiver. Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle, Tennessee Titans. At 27 years old, Jeffrey Simmons is playing at an elite level, and while he could stick around to be the lone bright spot on a defense that's about to get gutted, let's be real. Does he really want to spend the next few years watching his team bottom out while he wastes his prime? No, probably not. Tennessee? Well, they're not in a position to hold on to expensive veterans. The franchise is fresh off hitting the reset button 1 year ago. New coaching staff, new direction, and with how Brian Callahan's first year with the team went, probably a full-scale teardown coming. A guy like Simmons is far more valuable to them as a trade chip than as a player stuck on a roster that isn't close to contended. The smart move is simple. Trade him now while his value is still sky high. And the best landing spot for him? New England. Mike Vrabel is back in Foxborough, and let's be honest, there is no way he isn't making a call to see what it would take to reunite with one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league. The Patriots desperately need impact players, especially in the trenches, and Simmons is a perfect fit for his system, dating back to his days with the Titans. Deebo Samuel, WR, San Francisco 49ers. This one has been brewing for a while. The moment the 49ers handed Brandon Ayuk his extension, Deebo Samuel's days in San Francisco were numbered. They could pretend that they wanted to keep both of them, but let's be honest, that was never happening. Further souring the relationship, Samuel's 2024 season was his worst since 2020. Just 51 catches for 670 yards and a noticeable drop in explosiveness. San Fran just gave him permission to seek a trade, which means that this isn't just speculation anymore. Cutting him would be tough because of the massive cap hit. But hey, if they can find a buyer, even at a discount, a new home for Deebo next year is almost a certainty. 2 teams that make a ton of sense as potential landing spots? Well, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. The Ravens have been searching for a true playmaker at wide receiver for years, and Deebo, while not a pure wide receiver 1, would give Lamar Jackson another dynamic weapon alongside the budding star in Zay Flowers to build out the short to intermediate game. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, desperately needs more firepower at receiver. George Pickens is their guy, but adding Deebo to that offense would give them another tough physical weapon who can do damage after the catch. And Mike Tomlin loves guys like Deebo, fiery dudes that he can try to get the best out of. Rashad White, running back, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This one isn't going to dominate the offseason headlines in the same way the rest of the guys on this list are, but Rashad White is a pretty big name, especially amongst fantasy football players, which, well, is basically everyone at this point. In any case, let's call it what it is. White's time in Tampa is running out. He got his shot to be the guy, and to be fair, and to his credit, played fairly well. But when the Buccaneers brought in rookie Bucky Irving, it became very clear that they had found their new lead back. Irving came in and immediately looked more explosive, more decisive, and frankly, just better. Many analysts believe that he was the best rookie running back in the league last year. And well, he has a ceiling to be very excited about. Thus, the Bucs are shifting gears, and keeping White around as a backup just doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially if they can flip him for a mid-round pick and clear some cap space. He's not completely washed, but he's also not the type of player you build an offense around. That said, White is no slouch, and maybe he could find a home in neighboring Duval with the Jaguars, who could use a running mate for Tank Bigsby, with relations souring with the incumbent Travis Etienne. Kirk Cousins, quarterback, Atlanta Falcons. When Kirk Cousins signed his massive contract with the Falcons, it was supposed to be a franchise-altering move. Cousins was getting paired with an elite skill group, and the team seemed to be shifting more towards an offensive mindset after parting ways with Arthur Smith. Granted, he was coming off a nasty Achilles injury, but he was supposed to stabilize the QB position in Atlanta for the foreseeable future. Then the Falcons went and drafted Michael Penix Jr. And, well, just like that, Cousins went from the team's future to a very expensive insurance policy. One that looked like a rather ill-fated investment after how last season played out. Luckily for Atlanta, there is a very interesting landing spot for Cousins sitting right in front of them in the Cleveland Browns. Cousins and Kevin Stefanski already have a built-in connection from their time together in Minnesota, and the organization is absolutely desperate for stability at the quarterback position. Or, you know, at least a breath of fresh air after the Deshaun Watson disaster. Yes, last year should make Browns fans nervous, but hey, at a minimum, Cousins can bring some professionalism back to the position, all while the front office turns its attention towards the future. Alvin Kamara, running back, New Orleans Saints. Alvin Kamara can still play, but the Saints are a bit of a mess. They're also in salary cap hell. They don't really have a real answer at quarterback, and they're just hanging on to an aging core that really isn't getting any better. Keeping Kamara around at this stage of their rebuild, I don't know, just doesn't make a lot of sense for either side. Wasting his final productive years on a sinking ship should be out of the question. Some team is going to make a run at him, and one team stands out as a perfect fit: Kansas City. And yeah, he is an aging running back, but come on, we just saw what a difference a premier playmaker can make for a real contender. Look for KC to try and enlist Kamara's versatile services to plug into their offense this offseason. But hey, which top NFL stars do you think will have a new home in 2025? Where do you think they should go? Was there any notable names that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then hey, clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then hey, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.